Good morning, students. Today I am going to teach you the second part of the Great Stone Face. Before starting the chapter, let's recapitulate part 1, the Great Stone Face part 1, where we have done that in a valley there were mountainside, and out of the mountainside a face was emerging, which was the work of nature. And there lived a man, a boy, Ernest, young boy Ernest, and whose mother was telling him the story about that stone face, that the prophecy was there that one day a man just resembling the face of that great stone face would come to their place, come to their valley, and he would be as kind and benevolent as this great stone face is. And Ernest started believing the stories of his mother, and he was waiting for that man to come to his valley, and there came two persons, and whose rumor was spread in the valley that Gathergold, who was a native of that valley, he had come and he would be going to resemble the face of that great stone face. But Ernest was not at all convinced. Why? Because he was brought up in the myth that the great stone face would be so benevolent and kind, but he did not find any resemblance in Gathergold's face of that great stone face. Then came Blood and Thunder, who was also expected to be the same, having the same resemblance of the great stone face, but he also didn't resemble. And Ernest grew up, and he was such a nice and kind and benevolent person that in the whole valley he was known for his kindness and for his sharing nature. And he could just gaze at that great stone face, and he just noted this thing that the great stone face was telling him, "Fear not, Ernest, that great stone face will come one day." So this much we have done in the Great Stone Face part 1. Now I am going to start the Great Stone Face part 2. Let's read the chapter. Take out your chapter. So the first part of the Great Stone Face is about the earnest quest to find out the man who will return one day to the valley resemble the Great Stone Face. Now many years passed. Ernest was now a man of middle age, and to his neighbors, who never suspected that he was anything more than an ordinary and familiar face, he was only a humble and hard-working, though thoughtful person. So in the valley, nobody recognized the qualities of Ernest, and they thought him a normal, ordinary man. But what about the old prophecy that one day that great stone face will come and who will be kind and benevolent? Now what was it ever fulfilled? Now let us read and find out. The years hurried on and brought white hairs upon the head of Ernest, and made wrinkles across his forehead and furrows in his cheeks. This depicts that great stone face was now just coming in that Ernest, and Ernest is now an old man who was having wrinkles across his forehead, and furrows means deep lines in his cheeks. He was an old man now, but not in vain. Not uselessly had he grown old. More numerous than the white hair on his head were the wise thoughts in his mind. That means he was now the wisest man of the valley. Ernest has ceased to be obscure, unsought for, undesired, had come the fame with so many feet, and Ernest had not well known, he had not ended to be not well known, unsought for, not searched for, understand, undesired, had come in the fame with so many feet. He was not only famous in his own valley for his kind and benevolent nature, but he was known for his wise thoughts around the valley, across the valley, in the cities also. College professor and many other people used to come to Ernest to converse with him. Why? Because he was known to be the wisest person of the valley, who was having wise thoughts, and he could converse on any of the topic which other people want to Now, college professors and even the active men of cities came from far to see and converse with Ernest, and he received with them gentle sincerity and spoke freely with them of whatever came uppermost or lay deepest in his heart or their own. That means people around the city and wise people, active men, they used to come to him to take suggestions, and he just gave those suggestions to them which were there in his heart. He was a very thoughtful person, and he was having the solution of every problem. So that's why people from the cities and around the valley and beyond the limits of valley would come to him. And while they talked together, when they were talking, at that time his face would brighten, unawares, and shine upon them as with a mild evening light. And when he used to converse with them, at that time his face would brighten up, because he was having so many good thoughts in him, that positive energy was coming out of him, and that's why his face would brighten. And while Ernest had been growing old, God had granted a new poet to this earth. When Ernest was just now had been growing old, at that time one poet was also there, who was also the native of that valley, and he had been writing the poetry, and in those poetry he had mentioned about that great stone face. Because that poet was the native of that valley, that means he was born in that valley, and he had been also brought up while seeing that great stone face. That's why his thoughts were also wise, and he was just mentioning each and every part of that great stone face, and even the nature of that great stone face. Now, he too was the native of the valley, but had spent the greater part of his life in distant cities, pouring out his sweet music everywhere. And neither was the great stone face forgotten, for the poet had celebrated it in the poem, and the songs of this poet found their way to Ernest, and he read them after his customary toil, seated on the bench before his cottage door, and as he read, he lifted his eyes to the mountain. And when his poetry was there in the books, at that time, that Ernest got those poetry, and he used to read those poetry when he did his customary toil of the whole day. That means the usual work of the day he used to complete, and after that he used to sit just in front of his house and used to read the poetry written by that poet, because the great stone face was mentioned in his poetry. "O great stone face," he said, "is not this man worthy to be your likeness?" Now again Ernest wanted that man should come who will be resembling that great stone face. And he thought that the poet who is writing so many things about that great stone face, he would be having the likeness of that great stone face. And the face seemed to smile, and the great stone face seemed to smile, but did not answer. Again, he did not get any answer. Ernest did not get any answer from the great stone face, because whenever he used to gaze at it, he used to get the answers. Now the face seemed to smile, but he did not answer, and now it happened that the poet, though he lived so far away, had not only heard of Ernest, but had thought much about his character and wished to meet this man whose wisdom walked hand in hand with the noble simplicity of his life. And one summer day, therefore, he arrived at Ernest's door, where he found the good old man holding the book in his hand, which he read, and then with a finger between the leaves looked lovingly at the great stone face. And now the poet also heard about Ernest. He had heard about Ernest's wisdom. He had heard about Ernest's benevolent nature. He also wanted to meet Ernest. Poet also wanted to meet Ernest. That's why he had specially arrived there to that valley to meet Ernest. And Ernest, after doing his usual work, was sitting and just reading the poetry of that poet. "Good evening," said the poet. "Can you give a traveller a night's shelter?" The poet said good evening to Ernest, and he said, "Can you give a traveller a night shelter? Would I just remain at your place just for a night?" Gladly answered Ernest, and then he added, smiling, I think I never saw the great stone face look so hospitably at a stranger. And then he added, smiling, I think I never saw the great stone face look so gently and kindly at a stranger, and you are a gentle person. That's why he's looking at you like this, Ernest said to poet. Next part we'll do tomorrow.